Welcome to Engineering Success Profile Editions with Sotira Georgiou, talking about her role as a structural engineer. Hi Sotira, welcome to the show.
Hello, thank you very much for having me.
So can we
Pleasure
start with,
speaking to you.
what was your route into engineering?
Sure, absolutely. So when I was in school, the modules I was doing in school were mathematics, mainly the core mathematics and mechanics.
Yeah.
I was studying physics, chemistry, and biology. I took them to A level, so I was continuing to study them at A level. But the modules which I enjoyed mostly were mathematics and physics. So I really wanted to go to study engineering at university. I was a bit not 100% sure what type of engineering I wanted to do.
Right.
I quickly eliminated a few of them, and I was between civil engineering and mechanical because from the modules that I was doing in school, those were the ones that I enjoyed the most. So I also had a few discussions with a few family members. So my uncle is an architect, and my other uncle is a quantity surveyor. So they explained to me the different opportunities within civil engineering and the construction industry in general. So I was really fascinated by what they told me about their career and their job. So I decided to go to university to study civil engineering. And therefore I went to study at the University of Southampton, and I did my BEng in civil engineering. And then I went to study further and did an MSc in civil engineering again with a focus on structural engineering modules.
Right. So how did you become involved in your position in structural engineering?
So when I was at university, as I said, I was studying civil engineering, and civil engineering allows you to do lots of different modules, such as structural engineering, geotechnical engineering, water engineering, hydraulics as well. So all of the modules were really fascinating to me, but again, the ones which I enjoyed mostly were the ones which are related to structural engineering, so the structures and materials and all the design modules. And I especially enjoyed the group design projects that we did, where we were part of a team of four or five people, and we were developing the client's brief. And therefore, I knew that I wanted to go on and become a structural engineer as part of my career. When I finished university in 2014, I joined Rambo. It's a company I'm still working in at the moment. It's a Danish company. And I joined the building structures team in Southampton as a graduate structural engineer, where I was involved in lots of different projects in different areas such as residential, education, commercial, industrial, so a real variety. And that's where I am at the moment as well. I'm still enjoying it and I'm loving it.
Yeah, fantastic. So as a bit of a follow-on from that, what big engineering jobs have you worked on, and how do you coordinate with the other engineering teams?
So the good thing is that as soon as I joined the building structures team, I was immediately put in a big design team to work on different projects. When I first started in my first years in engineering, I was part of the team designing the Fambra Exhibition International Hall in Fambra. It's a big exhibition hall. It's a 22 square meter exhibition hall in Fambra. I was also in the design team of the Royal Horticultural Society Welcome Building in Wisley, which was another big project. I was also part of the design team of the University of Southampton new centenary building. So a big variety of different projects, all multi-million pound projects ranging between 30, 40, 50,000 million pounds. So I'm currently involved in housing development in Watford. It comprises of 180 housing units. So a real mix of different types of projects. So you can work in education, in retail, in industrial, a bit of a mix. So it never gets boring in engineering, I have to say.
Yeah. So how do you coordinate with other disciplines, like the M&E guys and stuff? Do you have regular site meetings? Do you meet in their office?
Absolutely. So being a structural engineer, it's never a one-to-one, a one-person job, basically. You're always working as part of a team. So you work with mechanical engineers, electrical engineers, architects, contractors, quantity surveyors, a lot of different disciplines, and we basically work in a team, and we have to coordinate and collaborate with other team members and other disciplines to come up with the end product for the benefit of the client. So there is a lot of coordination and collaboration between us. We are constantly every day talking on the phone, being in meetings. When we're not locked down, we have face-to-face meetings or conference calls, and it's a big coordination exercise between the different disciplines. So how the design works, the client approaches the architect, who will put together a design of how the building will look like. So how big it will be, how tall it will be, how many rooms there will be in the building. And then you have your design team, where the structural engineer will say where the different columns, the different beams will be in the building, all the stability elements. The mechanical engineer will say where all the duct work will be, all the pipe work. The electrical engineer will say where all the electrical services will go. So it's a big coordination exercise. And at the end of the day, we create our drawings. So each of us has their own drawings, and we give these drawings to the contractor, who will then build the building. So we're part of the design team, and then this goes on to be in the construction stage, where the contractor builds the project. So it's a really big exercise and really fascinating.
So in your role, what you do at the minute, do you carry out structural checks on site? Do you go out onto site a lot, or is most of your time in the office with a few site visits?
So personally, my job is mainly office-based. So I spend most of my time in the office doing structural calculations, producing the structural drawings, coordinating with my team. But when I have a project which is on site for construction, I will visit the site perhaps once a week to review the progress of the works, speak with the contractor in case they have some queries on my drawings, in case they want to build the structure slightly different to the way I designed it. So again, there is a big discussion and collaboration between us to understand what's the best way of building the structure. I'm also involved in several refurbishment projects and also surveys of existing structures. For example, I was involved in the Royal Clarence Yard in Gosport, which is a reservoir, and we were trying to review the existing structure. I was also involved in the structural appraisal of a few stadiums, for example, the Southampton Club Stadium and the Kassam Stadium in Oxford. So again, going to site, reviewing the structure, reviewing any defects which arise, and then discussing the different options for remedial measures with the client and proposing these options. So a real mix of things to do in engineering.
So more about structural engineer. Could you actually be a structural engineer actually based on site full time, or are most structural engineering jobs based in the office?
So you can do both. You can do anything you like. So as I said, my job is mainly office based, but you can also be a structural engineer working for a contractor, where you will advise all the structural matters as part of the construction stage. So you kind of be in the office doing the calculations at the early design stages, or you can be a structural engineer working on site, assisting the contractor for the actual issues which arise on site. So whichever way you prefer, you can either do both, you can do one or the other. There's a big variety of things that you can do. So it's really fascinating.
So if I was looking for a job in structural engineering, what sort of companies would I be best looking at?
Sure. So as I said, I work for a company called Ramble. It's a Danish engineering consultancy where we employ about 16,000 people all over the world. So this is a big organization, but it doesn't mean that you can only work in big organizations. There are also smaller organizations that you can join, and you can get a variety of experience from both types of companies. So really it depends what type of engineering and what type of what aspect of the structural engineering you want to get involved with. Because some companies work in bigger projects, in more multi-million pound projects. Other companies work on smaller projects. Some companies do mostly refurbishment works. So there's a real variety of things that you can do. And it doesn't mean that if you start with one company, you have to stay with that company for the whole of your career. You can join another company later on and get more experience. So there are lots of opportunities that you can do in
Yeah,
engineering.
yeah. So what are the routes into structural engineering? Is it purely you go in as a graduate, or can you have an apprenticeship?
So again, you can do whichever route you prefer. So as I said, I kind of followed the more traditional route, which is going to university, getting your academic qualification, and then joining a company as part of their graduate training scheme. This doesn't mean that this is the only option. I have lots of colleagues of mine that they joined the company straight after high school.
Right.
Joined as an apprentice, so they joined the apprentice scheme of the company, and they trained as an apprentice as part of this scheme. This means that you can do on-the-job training where you will learn the structural engineering, developing drawings, doing calculations through the job, and then companies will sponsor you to do your academic qualification. So you can get your degree by working in the company, so working part-time and studying part-time. So it doesn't have to be one specific route. You can choose whichever route suits better for you.
Yeah. What's the most challenging part about being a structural engineer?
The most challenging part, so I definitely have to say that the most challenging part is to make sure that the structure you're designing is safe for the people who will be living in the structure, working in the structure, and making sure that you will design the structure to support all the loads that the structure will be subjected to. However, another quite challenging part is this communication and collaboration with other teams. Because you're working as part of a team, you need to make sure that your design is coordinated with the other designs and making sure that the end product is the best possible product for the client. So even though it's a really important part and a very fascinating part, it's also quite challenging. So communication skills is really important in our profession.
Yeah. So what would you say was the most rewarding part of your job?
The most rewarding part, it definitely has to be the fact that you design a structure on paper. So you will do your calculations, you will do your checks, you will put all the structural elements on a drawing. But at the end of the day, that drawing becomes a reality. And it's really fascinating going to sites. And once the project is built and then handed over to the client, seeing the end product in real life and knowing that you were part of a very important team that helped to design this project. So this is really fascinating and the best feeling in the world, I have to say.
Yeah. So I know you're involved in a lot of organisations outside of your job promoting STEM and engineering. So what advice would you give somebody who was starting their engineering journey today?
Absolutely. So I would say the most important thing to bear in mind is that you have to be bold and take the opportunities as they arise. If you are looking for more experience in a particular sector or in a particular part of your job, you should seek for it. Speak with your line managers, speak with your other people in the surrounding environment, and get as much experience as possible. And really, there is no stupid question. You can ask as many questions as you like. That helps you as a person to develop and become better as an engineer. So definitely don't be afraid to ask questions. Get as many opportunities as possible. Get as much experience as possible, because this will help you later on in the future to become the best possible professional that you can be.
Yeah. So a bit more generally now, what tips would you give somebody to help their CV stand out? Because obviously it's a crowded marketplace, and you want to be seen. Do you have any tips that you could share?
Absolutely. So I remember when I was applying for jobs, it was really difficult. I made hundreds of applications in different companies. The majority of them I didn't even get a response. I had a few interviews, and in the end, I chose the company I'm currently working in. I would say, first of all, don't be disappointed if you don't hear back from companies. It's really challenging times, especially at the moment. What I would say is get as much experience as possible. I know that times are difficult at the moment, but definitely, even if it's unpaid work experience, just grab the opportunity, meet people, talk to people. Networking is really important. The more people you know, the more they can get to know you and understand you as a person, the better. Also, getting all the opportunities that you can, and also the fact that companies really want to see your real self. They want to see that you're a good team member, that you work, you're a good fit in the team. So don't be afraid to show your real self and grab as much opportunities as possible, I would say.
Yeah. So finally, what interview tips would you give young people? Because obviously it can be quite nervous having interviews and, you know, going for the first time to see a company. Do you have any tips that you could share?
Absolutely. So I remember my first interview. I was really scared because it was actually the first ever interview that I did. And I was really scared that I would go in the room and I wouldn't really know anything to say, and that the manager would be very, like mean with me. But I was really surprised when I actually went in the room, and the manager was a very chatty person. So they were trying to make me feel relaxed and talk about myself and what I did at university, what things I know, and they could try to make me feel more relaxed. And I think this is with all the companies. So again, don't be scared. Take as much materials that you've developed yourself to talk to the managers about, and explain why you enjoy engineering and why you are passionate about it and enthusiastic. That's what they really want to see, and they want to see if you're a good fit in the team. Technical skills are very important, and you have to show that you're good with technical skills. But anything specific will be learned through the job. So don't worry, no one knows everything. Even people with 10, 20, 30 years of experience, they still have things that they don't know. So that's the good thing about the job environment, because we work in teams and we speak with other people. If you have a question, you can go and speak with them. So don't worry about not knowing everything. The important thing is to be bold, and don't worry about answering and asking any questions that can help you to become better. So just be yourself, grab all the opportunities, and that's the important thing.
Sotira, thank you so much for being part of the Profile Editions.
Thank you very much, Jamie. It was really good chatting to you. I really enjoyed it. And I hope we can meet in person next time.
Definitely. I'll see you soon.
Great, thank you.